Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Space News for Tuesday, October 2nd. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Kyle Henry. Let's talk about what's going on in space.
I never want to hold again.
Falcon Heavy is in startup.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Status check.
Go Delta.
5, 4, 3.
Our top story, SpaceX conducted a static fire of the SciComm 1A booster earlier today. That mission is currently scheduled for October 6th and will be the first RTLS at Vandenberg. And the IAC, or the International Astronautical Conference, is happening this week. Blue Origin and SpaceX will be sending representatives there. SpaceX will have Hans Quegemann, the VP of Flight Reliability. That stream will be tomorrow. However, there is a paywall, so it's about 20 euros. But Blue Origin is also going to be at the IAC. They were there today and gave a talk, and from it we got new renders of New Glenn. In these renders it showed a black sort of where SpaceX has the engine stuff for the first stage, where the octaweb is. I don't know what Blue Origin is calling it, but yeah. They also introduced a Silda type thing. For those of you who don't know, the Silda is basically a cup that is used on the Ariane 5 to allow Ariane 5 to fly 2 payloads to geostationary transfer orbit or just to orbit. They put one payload on top. They put one payload on the fairing base. They put the Silda on top of that, and it sort of covers it like a cup would. And then they put the next payload on top of the Silda. New Glenn will apparently have one of these. They haven't given it a name, so that's why I'm calling it the Silda, like what Ariane Space calls it. But in the graphics, when they compared fairing size, they went right for SpaceX, because they showed New Glenn's payload fairing and the payloads that they can fit in it, and then they showed the Falcon 9's payload fairing, and they didn't show ULA's Delta 4's payload fairing, or Atlas 5's payload fairing, or Antares' payload fairing, or Ariane 5 or Soyuz or any of the other ones. They literally only showed SpaceX and called them out for it. So that was kind of interesting, but kind of makes sense. Blue Origin and SpaceX have sort of had this rivalry between them. They are both companies that are pursuing reusability. SpaceX has done it with orbital class rockets. Blue Origin has done it with suborbital straight up, straight down style rockets and New Shepard, but they're going for it with New Glenn. But yeah, it was a really interesting stuff. The link to that PDF is in the description down below. Check it out. There's a lot of cool info on it. But yeah. And finally, a Kuaizhou 1A launch took place over this weekend. That launch took place on September 25th and carried the Senti Space 1 satellite into a sun-synchronous orbit. We don't know what it's doing there or even what it is, because it's China. And finally, NASA celebrated its 60th birthday yesterday. They were celebrating all throughout the day, showing pictures of the past, like pictures from Gemini, from Apollo, from Mercury. I know I went in a weird order there, but whatever. They also showed space shuttle pictures. SpaceX congratulated them. Everyone was congratulating. It was a big happy party. But there's a lot of info there's not really much info that came out actually. But yeah, it was really fun. And finally, there aren't any launches that we know of. There is a Long March launch that's scheduled for early October that could take place. However, because it's China, it's not like there's going to be a live stream or anything because it's secretive, but it's going to be carrying some Beidou GPS satellites, or what are the equivalent to GPS, because that's the US terminology, but you get it. But yeah, there's not really any launches coming up between now and Friday's episode. Saturday we have that Falcon 9 launch that we talked about earlier in the show, so kind of a boring week. But I'm Kyle Henry. Thank you so much for joining us. We post newscasts like this every Tuesday and Friday. So if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on what's going on in space. Also, links to my social media are in the description down below. I post mainly about space travel and will also give updates on the show. So if we have a delay or something comes up, I'll update it on my social media, and you can check my social media to stay up to date on the show. But we also post all of our sources for today's stories in the description down below, so you can check our facts, and if something doesn't seem right, let us know. We strive for 100% accuracy in our coverage. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Goodbye.